That is, until the priest asked a question.
Should anyone here know of any reason that this couple should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I have something to get off my chest.
I didn't have to look to know that it was Jack's mother speaking up. Her mouth formed in a thin line as she clutched her purse to her chest and approached Jack and I.
I refuse to allow my son to marry an unfaithful woman.
Hi, my name is Selena. I'm 28 years old, I work as a technical writer, and I'm marrying the man of my dreams. His name is Jack. He's kind, funny, smart, and he's wonderful with my daughter, Sabrina. It's been difficult for Sabrina, growing up without a father, and it took her over a year before she could even speak to Jack. But over time, they've bonded and become closer than ever. It warms my heart every time I see him reading her a bedtime story or putting on an impromptu puppet show with her stuffed animals. Jack and I have been engaged for over a year now, and we have made little progress in planning our wedding. Truthfully, we've both been so busy with work and taking care of Sabrina that we simply don't have the time to prepare everything needed for the ceremony. But at least we've been able to mark a date and write out most of our wedding invitations. Though I noticed when we were writing them out that my husband had a troubled look on his face. What's wrong?
I'm not sure if I should invite my mother or not.
I froze and swallowed down the lump forming in my throat. Jack's mother, Dorothy, had never been a fan of mine, even less so of my daughter. I remembered the first time Jack ever introduced me to his parents. His father was calm and unreadable, but his mother frowned at me the moment she saw me. She didn't approve of the fact that I was a single mother, and she didn't see me as a fit for her son. I could take the snide remarks Jack's mother made against me, but when she made a remark about my daughter growing up to be a degenerate without a father figure, I screamed at her. She kicked me and Jack out, and I cried the entire way home. Jack never spoke to her again. But now, with our wedding plans beginning to take root, it was time to decide whether or not she deserved a second chance. My mother always told me that second chances should be free, but they should also be final. I'm willing to give her that. But if she verbally attacks my daughter again, I won't have anything to do with her. Ever again.
I'd hate not to have my own mother at my wedding. Thank you for understanding, hun.
I nodded, though I couldn't shake my nerves. I was certain Jack's mother would try something again, but I decided to reserve judgment until the wedding day. The days turned to weeks, which turned to months. Finally, our wedding day was set. Everything was prepared. My stepmother was standing behind me as I gazed upon my crystalline patterned wedding dress in the mirror of a small office room in the old church we were to be married in. My stepmother, Christy, had tears in her eyes.
Oh, honey, I'm so proud of you, of the woman you've become.
Thanks, Christy. My stepmother and I embraced for a long time, and I had to hold back tears as to not mess up my carefully applied makeup. But once we finally parted, the time had come to walk down the aisle with my father, Darren. But not before my beautiful Sabrina skipped down the aisle, scattering flower petals as she went, wearing her beautiful pink dress that Jack helped me pick out for her. I'm nervous.
You're ready. You've been ready since the day you brought Jack to us.
Thanks, Dad. My father took my arm and we walked down the aisle, slowly passing friends, family, and co-workers. A few of my friends were in tears already, dabbing their eyes with tissues, while others recorded with their phones. I felt like my own celebrity. But amongst the smiling faces and teary-eyed expression, I spotted one face in the crowd frowning at me. Jack's mother. She'd aged over the years, but I remembered that expression. That same expression Jack had brought me to that day he introduced me to his parents. His father was focused on Jack, his eyes gleaming but not spilling with tears. But I remembered that I'd given his mother a second chance, and so I decided she could look at me as sternly as she wanted as long as she left my daughter alone. So, I looked away and focused on Jack ahead of me. His smile was warm, his suit fitting his muscular frame perfectly. His eyes shined brighter than I'd ever seen before. When my father reached Jack, he let go of my arm, symbolically and literally giving me to Jack. And I stepped forward, facing Jack as the priest cleared his throat and began the ceremony. When he finished introductions, Jack and I read our vows to each other. We laughed. I almost cried more than once, and we laughed some more. The day seemed perfect. Jack's mother's frowning face disappeared from my memory, and I didn't even bother looking her way. That is, until the priest asked a question.
Should anyone here know of any reason that this couple should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I have something to get off my chest.
I didn't have to look to know that it was Jack's mother speaking up. Her mouth formed in a thin line as she clutched her purse to her chest and approached Jack and I.
I refuse to allow my son to marry an unfaithful woman.
Gasps sounded from the crowd and I shook my head. What are you talking about?
Mom, stop.
This woman was a single mother before she even met my Jack. She couldn't keep her legs closed for some strange man who ran away from both of them. I cannot allow my son to father an illegitimate child. I will not.
No, not on my wedding day, you old crone. Sit back in your seat before I make you.
Make me? Do not speak to me like I am your child. Lord knows you've done a terrible enough job with her.
Fiery rage prickled down my spine. I clenched my fists and acted without thinking. Before I knew it, my hand had found the wedding cake standing tall a few feet away from me. Listen here, you witch. I grabbed a fistful of cake. Why don't you eat some cake? I shoved the handful of cake right in her face. And sit your wrinkled butt back down in your seat. Jack's mother sputtered and coughed, panicking as she wiped cake from her face.
Oh, you ruined my dress, you harlot. Oh, but I did.
Selena, what are you doing?
What I should have done long ago. Something moist and soft splashed into my face, and I gasped. Bits of cake were falling from my face and dirtying my perfect wedding dress. You didn't! Jack's mom stood there with cake in her hand. In a fit of rage, I knocked the entire cake over, all over Jack's mom. She screamed and fell over, cake covering her from head to toe. Jack glared at me, and Sabrina started crying, so I grabbed her by the hand and led her to my father, who seemed to be trying his best not to laugh, then ran to my dressing room. I sat down and tried to wipe the cake off my dress, fighting back tears. But it didn't matter, did it? My dress was already ruined. What difference did it make if my makeup was ruined as well? So, I cried. No, I bawled my eyes out. My wedding day had been taken apart by that awful lady. But at least I had gotten my revenge. If only my mother could have seen me up there. She would have been proud. I sat in that quiet room for hours, crying and staring out the window as the guests eventually left. When I couldn't stand watching them anymore, I stared at the mirror, at my destroyed makeup and cake-smattered dress. I could have cried more right there, but the tears had dried up, so I just stared and mourned what could have been. Then a knock came at my door. Who is it? I hoped it wasn't Jack or Sabrina. I couldn't stand to let them see me like this. If only my mother were still here. After losing her to cancer years ago, I have never been quite the same. The door creaked open, and in the mirror, I saw Jack's mother step through the door. For the first time, I didn't spot a frown or an angry expression on her face. The rage, instead, was on my face. I whirled around and puffed my chest out, prepared to stand my ground again. What do you want? Jack's mother wrung her hands and avoided eye contact, staring at the ground for a long moment.
Apologize. It's complicated, Selena. It's so complicated.
Dorothy took a seat at the chair by the window, her face still peppered with cake crumbles and frosting, as well as her dress.
I had no idea that your previous husband had passed away.
I had thought my tears had run dry, but the moment the words left her mouth, tears welled in my eyes. I sniffled. That's because I never got the chance to tell you, because you never gave me the chance.
You're right. I'm just so embarrassed by how I've been acting all this time.
Well, you should be.
You have to understand, Jack means everything to me. He's always been such a sensitive soul. I was under the impression that you had left your husband, or maybe he had left you. I was scared that you were bad news, that you would end up separating with Jack. He can't take that kind of heartbreak, especially if there's a child involved. I was just trying to protect him.
You had no right to say the things you did about my daughter.
I know. I was angry and blinded. I'm not here to ask your forgiveness, because I know I don't deserve it. I'm here because I owe you an apology, and I couldn't bear to leave this church until I delivered it.
Well, thank you for the apology, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to forgive you. Not yet. What made you want to apologize? Was it really just finding out about my husband?
Jack was the one that told me. I've made him angry throughout his life, but I've never seen him like this. He really does seem to care about you, in a way I've never seen him care about anyone. And as I said, I don't want him to get hurt, but I think if I continue to interfere in the love you two seem to share with each other, I will be the one hurting him instead. I'm just ashamed it took me so long to realize. I hope that perhaps one day I can earn another chance to be your mother-in-law, in more than just name.
I don't think that will ever happen. My second chances are final, I'm afraid.
I understand.
Over the next few days, I saw more of Jack's mother. He seemed intent on having us all spend time together. Though he didn't say it out loud, I knew he wanted me to give her another chance. But I had already drawn my line in the sand, and she had crossed it. But then weeks passed, then months, then a couple of years. Jack and I had a redo of our wedding, and it went perfectly in every way I could have dreamed of. And this time, Jack's mother had a smile on her face, directed right at me. She went to every event my daughter had at school, every play, every recital, every achievement, and she cheered her on the loudest sometime. I had always seen my mother's words as wise. It made sense to me to give a second chance, and no other. But the more I see change in Jack's mother, the more I find myself laughing with her, smiling at her, even giving a compliment or two. Maybe a third chance isn't so bad of a thing to give. Maybe my mother was wrong after all. I never told Jack's mother that I forgive her, but in a way, I think I have. And I think she knows it. And honestly, I think I'm okay with that. I'm proud of the change Jack's mother has made, and I'm not afraid to say that I can see her becoming my mother-in-law in more than just name. Eventually, of course. Thanks for watching.